Someone who mixed up the ingredients, falsified the formula.
You're under arrest for murder.
My, what a sweet little dress.
Don't waste your ammunition, honey. My secretary, that's all, Shirley Blank. I've been watching Beauty Mark's stocks go down the last 2 months now. Well, since I always like to help a compatriot if they seem to be in trouble.
Mr. Lang, why don't you just go gobble up a pill company?
It isn't surprising, of course. You haven't hit with a really good new product since you, pirated those French lipsticks 2 years ago.
Yes. Imagine a harmless cream that can actually make wrinkles disappear. It's like alchemy. On the basis of last week's reports...
Those reports were wrong. It was a fluke. I jumped the gun. One little sample that broke down. I tried combination after combination since. This miracle of ours will never be any more useful for concealing wrinkles than axle grease.
You see, this Mr. Smith has some sort of formula that he's trying to sell. And Mr. Lang asked me to bring in this older friend of mine. Then Mr. Smith rubbed some of the formula on her skin. Wrinkles just disappear, and it lasts all day.
Poor old Murchison. If he only knew. He really did work a miracle, didn't he?
He had some help.
Sure he did. Someone who mixed up the ingredients, falsified the formula, stole it, and is now going to sell it to the highest bidder. What do you want for the jar?
Oh. You can have the jar. But, it isn't worth very much without the formula. We'll have to negotiate on that.
Where is it?
You're not gonna make a sucker out of me like you did Murchison. Now, there was a time when I would have given you anything. Now, quite frankly, I wouldn't give you
Morning, Lieutenant. Would you like to see the corpse?
No, thanks, no.
You work for Beauty Mark Cosmetics. He must have had 2 jobs because we found these smaller pay stubs in the desk there, and I also found his bank book in there, Lieutenant. And this magazine I found over there on the table.
What is that, a microscope?
Yes, sir.
You know, I haven't seen one of these things since high school.
And here's a blood stain. The doc seems to think this will match up as a murder weapon. However, I haven't found any prints.
He was hit from behind, Lieutenant, by a heavy object.
You know, you better be careful. Feels like there's some broken glass on the floor.
Apparently, they broke a drinking glass.
Excuse me, sir. These are tickets to where?
All Paris, George Cinq, then a week on the Riviera. All deluxe accommodations.
Sergeant, I thought you told me that Mr. Lessing was hard up.
He had a balance of less than $300. He apparently did some doodling. There's dollar signs, figures. He did it or somebody else did.
It's a funny kind of pencil to doodle with. I think it was a woman that killed him.
You do?
You see, on the back of this television magazine, there was a lot of doodling. They were written with a black eyebrow pencil. I spotted it right away because that's what my wife always uses when she makes out a grocery list. When she goes into her purse, that's the only kind of pencil she can ever find.
Then you're wasting your time here, aren't you, Lieutenant?
What do you mean?
You're talking to a redhead. Brunettes use black eyebrow pencil.
I've got Dr. Murchison's telephone number, and I've called him, but haven't had any luck. Can you help me?
Well, just try the nearest saloon. I'm sure that's the only place he's welcome anymore.
Say, Miss Scott, can I ask you a personal question? You always wear a beauty mark, only this morning you don't have it on.
Oh, is that all? It's just one of those things I never do before lunchtime, darling. Bye-bye.
No, what I was wondering about was how you put those things on. I mean, do you stick them on, or do you paint them on, or... Well, I can tell you're not interested in your mind someplace else. Don't worry about it, I'll ask somebody else.
Oh, no, Lieutenant, I don't mind telling you. I use an eyebrow pencil, of course. A black one.
Bye-bye, ma'am.
Goodbye, sir.
Look, have a look here, huh? It's not a very good picture, but there was a young fellow in here the other day, maybe once before. I didn't have time to talk to him.
Doesn't look familiar.
I mean, if you're so sure that the man he wrote the check to, that Harry Smith, is really Carl Lessing, then maybe they got into a fight over the price of the formula or something.
$450. I wonder if I could afford that.
I really have to go.
Lieutenant! What on earth are you doing here?
You know, you're so different, and that's what I admire about you. When you don't like somebody, you just come right out and you say it. I mean, when you fired Dr. Murchison and Lessing and everybody else.
Lieutenant, I have to go in this way. I'm afraid you're just going to have to come back another day.
Ma'am, you just do whatever you have to do and don't worry about me. I certainly don't want to interfere with anything.
Nude sunbathing, Lieutenant.
I'll be in town tonight if you'd like to call me then.
No, that's all right, ma'am. No, I'll just wait right out here. You do whatever you have to do.
Vivica! Vivica, where have you been? I can't wait. Mr. Lang just thinks I've gone to the store for something.
Listen, love, we can't talk now anyway. Oh, let me get it. Let me get it.
I'll find a place for you. That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
On an executive level? Because, you know, that's really the only way to do anything.
But there just isn't time to... What are you looking for? Did you lose something?
Oh, my cigarettes. I must have dropped them.
Oh, no, wait. Someone will see you. I have some. This'll hold you.
I didn't even know that you smoked.
There's a lot we have to learn about each other. But we will. Don't worry. Whew.
Bye.
Bye, Shirley.
Well, say, you wouldn't know what poison ivy looks like, would you?
I'm afraid I don't.
Broke out a couple hours ago. He's just like the devil. You know, I got a nephew out at UCLA. He's resident dermatologist out there. He said it sounded like poison ivy.
A dermatologist. Well, it must be poison ivy.
Yeah. Tell you, the only problem is the guy down at headquarters, Sergeant Kaiser, a German guy, his hobby is horticulture. You know, plants. So he told me there is no poison ivy in Southern California, not enough moisture.
Well, then maybe it isn't poison ivy.
Then I went out to UCLA. I showed it to my nephew. He looked at it. He said it is poison ivy.
Lieutenant, I did not kill Carl Lessing. I couldn't kill a fly.
What, you happen to see this?
Oh, yes, I heard about that. She was a very pretty girl, wasn't she?
One of the doctors, he thought her eyes were sort of dilated.
Well, what does that mean?
Could be drugs, quick-acting poison. You know what I found out? I found out that they actually use poisons when they make cosmetics. Belladonna, aconite.
Not that much anymore, Lieutenant.
No. Say, I was going to show you something funny. Doesn't that look awful? But I tell you, it sure stops the itching. Incidentally, that was poison ivy. My nephew got the report in this morning.
Oh, you poor thing.
But I tell you, that's not the funniest part. Here's the funny part. You know, the problem was, where did I get the darn stuff? Because they don't have any here in California. Except maybe in one place. Lessing's place. Hard to believe. I guess what Mr. Lessing did was, I guess he had a second job and he worked for a medical lab every once in a while. That's the extract of poison ivy. That's called urushiol. And that's the stuff that makes your hand itch. Now, he must have had a jar, somewhere around the apartment, and somewhere I must have touched it. So I sent a whole crew of guys out there now, and they're going to comb that place and see whether they can come up with that. And I want want to thank you for being so nice yesterday.
Oh, anytime, Lieutenant. Goodbye.
Sorry to disturb you, ma'am, but I have a court order here to search these premises. No luck yet, Lieutenant. No luck at all.
Lieutenant, would you please do what you have to do and get out of here?
Found the poison ivy.
That's good. Where?
Lessing's place.
I know at Lessons, but where?
It was in the bottom drawer of a file cabinet. The drawer was locked.
Still worried about your itch?
You worried about yours?
No.
Couldn't help noticing, ma'am, the past few days you've been scratching your hand and wearing gloves.
So?
Been out of state recently?
No.
Neither have I.
Lieutenant, you amaze me. Number one, you don't even know if I have poison ivy.
Doctor will tell us that.
Number two, even if I do have it, it has nothing to do with Carl Lessing because I never touched that vial.
You're under arrest for murder. Run into George. He's my brother-in-law. He's just back from Mexico today. He said, take a look at these. Knows I love family pictures. Took these out, handed them to me, and he said, these are the best slides I've ever taken. Slides. That's when it hit me. Where there's a microscope, there's always a slide. You see, we got our poison ivy in the same place. We both touched the slide. You touched it when you picked up the microscope and hit him. That's when the slide broke. I got it when I put my hand on the floor and it touched a piece of glass. I remember because I said, fellas, feels like there's broken glass here. The fingerprint man, he thought the glass came from a drinking glass.
Very good, Lieutenant.
Just one more thing.